me?
Hello, hello. How are you?
I am doing well. It's good to see you.
You as well. It's very exciting. This has been a wonderful program so far.
Thank you so much. We're having some technical glitches, but I think it's coming off okay. So far, so
It
good.
it is. It
Yes.
is.
So I see that some others have joined us here in the session for building and we're workforce. We're going to go ahead and ask you if you're in the chat, if you're here, just go ahead and tell us your name and where you're joining, which company you're joining us from, or city, whichever one works. We would love to hear from you out there. I'm here with Jeanette Winters, and Jeanette will be sharing with us today on the subject matter of how to maximize by using the power of awareness when it comes on to leadership and human resource management. Jeanette, it's so good to see you. It's been a minute since we've connected, but I'm so happy that we are here together today to have this really meaningful conversation about awareness. And what an excellent job that was done by Matt earlier on his subject of unlocking the power of awareness. What was your favorite part of that talk there that Matt gave?
The thing that I liked was his three-part approach: awareness, insight, and action. And I
Mm,
thought that aligns very closely to my approach, which is listen, learn, and act. And that
yes.
emphasis on awareness, I think, is just essential. And we really don't pay enough attention to that. It really was just such a wake up call and an exciting one. Matt is a very, very talented man. And I'm always, always so pleased to be able to listen to him.
I agree. I have to say that one of my favorite things that he said had to do with, I think it was the first part of his speech where he talked about the lack of awareness and the impact it will have in terms of causing inattentive leadership. And that touches a very sensitive note for me because I do believe that a lot of our leaders are not necessarily intentional about learning about themselves and their team so that they can get better at the craft of leadership. So that was excellent. Um, I know you. I know we've met, but I'm sure those who are on here today may never have met you. And so for the sake of those who are here, I just want you to introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about who Janet is and what you do.
Well, first, I wanted to congratulate both you and Jamie on the success of this event. It is clear how much
Thank
work
you.
you have put into this, and it's so wonderful to be part of this important discussion. And
Thank you.
Matt said something very important. He talked about awareness in enabling us not to water down our leadership. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that really is important. So my name
Yeah.
is Jeanette Winters, and my life has really been shaped by the curiosity of the education that I have been blessed to receive. My current career portfolio includes serving as a faculty member at the University of
Okay.
Houston, at the Victoria and Katy campuses, in the College of Business, where I teach org behavior. We're getting feedback in the sound.
Somebody said they're getting a feedback. Let's see. Let's just make sure that everything is. Uh, can you tell me if it's coming from my side or if it's coming from Jeanette's side? Are you able to share that?
Are people hearing it from me or from Shauna Kay? It's from me. Okay, Shauna Kay, any suggestions on what we do?
Right now, I am not sure because I don't have. I'm not hearing a feedback from you. I'm not hearing echo. Jeanette, do you have more than one screens of this open anywhere? Because possibly that could contribute to that. You may want to check for that.
No, single screen. So I checked before we started.
Okay. Are you guys still hearing the feedback from Jeanette? Can you mute your microphone and unmute it and see, Jeanette? Because I'm not external microphone.
Okay, I muted and
maybe you want to change the source of your microphone. Just click that settings button and change the source of your microphone.
Okay, now Gabriella says
lower your volume just a little bit.
I did that too, so
okay.
So maybe we're good now. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, I see somebody said that it's fine now. I see that from Gabby. Thank you so much, Gabby. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, go ahead. Yes.
In addition to being a faculty member, I'm also an executive coach and serve organizations in an interim and fractional basis when leadership is needed. And I will tell you that my purpose, my objective, is to enable all those around me to become their best selves. And frankly, to eliminate the toxicity that permeates way too many teams and organizations. I am a first-generation college graduate, and so I know the challenges of navigating through a system that's completely foreign to me or anyone around me. I was fortunate to have had teachers, mentors, and coaches who helped fuel my desire to learn and pointed me in the right direction. I thank these people each and every day, and they are in large measure why I sit here with you today. So thank you for welcoming me, and it's so good to be in the company of these wonderful people.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We're dealing with the subject matter of awareness, and I think it was quite appropriate for us to focus on this topic twice. It's one thing that Matt shared about, inattentive leadership and how that is really affecting our relationship with people, where we may be coming off as unapproachable and so on. But for the purpose of this discussion and within the context of leadership and human resource management, give us a broad definition of what awareness means. What does that mean?
Well, and for those of you who haven't read Jamie's book, he has a chapter on awareness, and he quotes John Maxwell. And I have to tell you, I've been carrying this quote around with me since I read the book, where he says that the most difficult part of leading is leading himself. And man, that is absolutely so true. For me, I define leadership as the knowledge or perception of a situation. And within the context of leadership development, that means meeting people where they stand. Now, as an educator and coach, it is my job to assess where people come to start their leadership journey with me. Like you and Jamie, I use a variety of tools to enlighten me. Behavioral assessments are a terrific mechanism, and they come with minimal and contained bias, which is to learn about people and how they operate in their work environment, what motivates them, what drives them to show up.
Yes.
And so I prefer using instrumentation rather than 360 feedback so as to overcome rater bias, which we now know is really pretty deep. So I really believe in the use of instruments. And like you and Jamie, I am certified to use the predictive index tool and find it is exceedingly helpful. Just think of it, 6 minutes of your life, and you can learn an awful lot about yourself. Now, I also use values, the leader's goals and objectives to help me triangulate, because awareness is not a thing. It is not a check the box. You really have to understand not only deeply, but in a contemporary manner as well. Awareness is situational and contextual, and that's something we all need to keep in mind. You may have known yourself yesterday and been completely aware. Make sure that you're equally aware today and that you're open to what the environment may be sharing.
I love it.
You think?
I love what you said there, because that contextual piece and situational piece is so huge. On a given day, I may be leaving home and things are happening in my life that's affecting me, even subliminally, and I'm not very much aware of how it's coming off. And just the wrong word that someone uses may trigger me and cause me to react and respond in a particular way that could then shape the course of a relationship for a lifetime. And so I absolutely love that portion that you chose to hone in on. Can you give us some of the benefits and the role that awareness plays, especially, let's say, for instance, you have an HR leader that's looking to uh, effect change or positive change within their organization? How would you recommend, or what would you say, the role that awareness plays in that process? What role would you say that awareness plays in that process?
Well, awareness is where we start, right? And so one of the things I do is to train uh, emerging HR leaders. And the thing that I hear all the time is that I'm really people centric. I love working with people, and they focus on that as if that's, the be all and end all. And frankly, if they're not taking equal care of the business, they're really losing one
Mm-hmm.
side of a two-headed coin, right? And so we
Right.
really need to make sure that we are aware of the bias that we come with. Are we there to help people? Are we a business person who
Mm-hmm.
specializes in working with people? And I always encourage HR staff to make sure that they're aware of both sides of the coin, the business and the people, and
Right.
to understand the greatest good, because there is always going to be someone that will not be able, that falls outside of the definition or the scope of greatest good. And yet we can't serve everyone every time. And that's why this has to be situational and contextual each and every day. But Shauna, you mentioned you're in your car, you're driving, something annoys you. You may be short tempered or short sighted about the influence that that's going to have. You walk in the meeting, people will sense your feelings right away. They'll sense your mood.
Yes.
And unless we're aware of that,
Mm-hmm.
we can be watering down our ability to lead, as Matt said.
Jamie mentioned it in the book, the concept of the front of your t-shirt and the back of your t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was so brilliant because the truth is, so much of what we do is affecting us. But sometimes, because people feel like I don't want to offend them, I will not share what I really and truly think of this person openly. But this kind of behavior is actually affecting your followership. It's affecting the way people view you. Let's talk about that for a little bit, about the front of the t-shirt, the back of the t-shirt. Can you explain what that is and share with us how, as a leader, we can find creative ways of managing how a person perceives us while we are on the job, even when we leave that room, when we're not in the space where they're talking about us?
I love that analogy. And Jamie talks about the front of the t-shirt. It's what people see. It's the message that people take away. And it is the space of interaction between you and your team, or you and your community, you and your class, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
environment might be, right? And you interact, it's a two-way street. The back of the t-shirt are the things that people don't tell you, but frankly, they are just as important as the things that people are willing to acknowledge in the front. I was thinking
Yes.
about this as I went for my run last night, and I thought, the t-shirt has two sides. It wouldn't be a t-shirt without both sides. And I thought, there it is. That is the key. We need both sides. Otherwise, we're not whole. We're
We're not
not
fully clothed.
able. We cannot show
Mm-hmm.
up with the front or just the back. Either way, it's going to be inadequate and won't stick. And that's why we need to be open to the constructive criticism, to the observations, to things that are contrary to what we may believe about ourselves or what we may hope for ourselves. And that's why that t-shirt has a front and a back for a reason. And as leaders, we need to be just as concerned about what's happening with our back as we are with what people see when they look at us face forward.
And that's so critical because, as you mentioned, what's on the front of my t-shirt is what people like about me. What's on the front of my t-shirt is why I get promoted. I speak well. I have a very good grasp of the technical expertise that's required for the job. But what's on the back of my t-shirt is the fact that people are saying she is a know-it-all. She's coming off as being demeaning and condescending. And I think that one of the things that's so important to the process of us being able to effectively manage the way we are perceived, even though these are the things that are on the back of our t-shirts, is also, what do you think about the culture and the environment that we tend to create in making people feel comfortable enough to come to us and say, this is what's happening? What are your thoughts on that as a leader?
It absolutely is critical. If we lack the awareness to be able to take in what might challenge us, it might challenge our bias, it might challenge our position, our opinion, we lose more than half. And, as Matt said, it waters down our ability to lead. And that's what we want to avoid, because leadership is a never-ending journey. Every day there are new challenges. I think of what has happened over the last 2+ years to leaders and how COVID has tested leaders.
Yes.
Nobody alive today probably had the experience of dealing with a global pandemic. We didn't have a choice. We had to lean in and deal with it.
Exactly.
If people can't bring and tell us you're too heavy-handed, you're not empathetic enough, you're not listening, we don't get the feeling that you care, you're going to lose a massively important element of leading during crisis, of leading during a time when people need a different spin on leadership. Absolutely.
Excellent. That's an excellent point right there. That in a crisis, sometimes we tend to rely or over-rely on the strengths that we have, and that then becomes a problem for our team. And that awareness is critical. Now, let's shift gears a little bit. I want to get a little bit more personal with you, Jeanette. Do you have any personal examples that you could share with those who are on here? And I just want to tell our viewing audience, you can use that to interact with us. We will be able to field your questions to Jeanette as well. And if you have things that you have to share or comments on what we are discussing, please feel free to go ahead and share those in the chat, and we'll make sure that we acknowledge that. But Jeanette, just a quick question for you. I wanted to find out, do you have any examples or real life scenarios of people you've worked with where you've seen that awareness came in and had a transformative impact? Can you share with us any of you from your personal experiences, what you've seen where that's concerned?
Well, I'll share one quick example of my own learning and awareness. And one of the things that I really try to do with teams that I lead is encourage them to give feedback, both positive and negative. And a gentleman that worked for me pulled me aside and he said, "We don't feel like we're getting your full attention in the meeting. You're checking your phone, you've got your laptop open." Everybody else did too, so I thought that was a little odd. But he said to me, "We want to emulate your best behavior, so give us that." And
oh,
wow. And so I will tell you, I don't check my phone in meetings. When I take notes, I now use paper. So that was such a key learning for me. But let me share with you a client story because it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I was coaching a CEO of a publicly traded company, very, very successful man, very successful company. And he came to me because he wanted to be a better leader. And he said privately, I need more fulfillment from my job. Well,
Wow.
we were talking, and so we were working on leadership skills. And he said, my
Mm-hmm.
team is not coming prepared. And I said, well, how do you help them prepare? Oh, I don't want to micromanage. I said, well, there's a difference between micromanaging and not managing at all, right? So I said, why don't you do interim check-ins? And he said, well, how would
Mm-hmm.
that work? I said, you make the assignment on Tuesday, you tell them, let me know how things are going on Thursday, if anybody
Yes.
needs any help. And when we come back together the following Tuesday, everybody will be done. He called me the following Thursday afternoon and said, you won't believe this. They had questions. And they didn't take it. They were being micromanaged. They took it that I was concerned and engaged. He now includes that as part of his leadership training. It's not a big deal, but it made a big difference to these people. Now, on his
See?
journey, he said, I need a new job. I love these people. I love my products. I love the company. I'm not fulfilled. So he actually was offered another job. And I said, before you take that, why don't you talk to your board of directors and see if you could really make the changes you want? And so he said, oh, well, how would I do that? And I said, last time I heard, you were in charge. He
That's right.
literally hung up on me. He said, I'll get back to you, and hung up on me. About 36 hours later, he called me back to tell me he had talked to the chairman of his board of directors. And they said, we want that innovation. We want that verve. We want that new and different. We want you excited. And they gave him carte
Wow.
blanche to make the changes. He said, Jeanette, I didn't know I could ask. Isn't that amazing? So all of us need to remember we can ask. We're likely to be told no as we are yes, but make sure that we're clear enough with the people around us so that they can give us the direction that we may need.
That's a critical point because it's not just having the awareness of how we feel that I'm not being fulfilled in my role, but it's also being able to effectively articulate that in the spaces where that's needed. Now, we're coming up on the final segment of our program, and I want you to share any advice that you can offer to a newly appointed leader who is struggling right now in terms of connecting with their new team. How can awareness, personal awareness, help with that?
So, first of all, get to know your people. They want and need to be heard and seen. So make sure you get to know them. And when I say get to know them, what matters to them? Their spouses, their kids, their education, their animals, their family, maybe they paint, maybe they are a musician. But we need to listen, learn, and then act. Do not assume.
Act. Mm-hmm.
Do not assume. Don't prejudge. Check your own biases. And then ask the team individually and collectively how we can work better together.
Wow, that's powerful. And before we go, I see a very important question here because I see how this can be very much problematic. And in a minute or two, Jeanette, how concerned, if at all, should a manager be about glowing reviews from most of his or her direct report?
Well, the research is very clear that when we get feedback from others, 65% of the feedback is more about the way you would like to, the feedback provider would like to be seen rather than making comment about the person that they're commenting on. And so feedback really needs to be looked at through that lens. And so what I would say is I would look more at the substance. Are you getting things done? Are people engaged? Do they feel that they are respected? I would rather know more about how they feel that they're being treated than a glowing review. If somebody says, she's a tough leader, but she's fair and she listens, I'll take that every day. If someone says, you know, oh, she's the nicest person on the face of the earth, you know, and then meanwhile, this person, you know, doesn't feel that they're out looking for another job because they don't feel like what I'm providing is what they need. I failed, even if they have been given glowing reviews. And we need to remember that people will do what they believe they are being evaluated on. So if they feel that they're evaluated on glowing reviews, they'll focus on getting the reviews, not on changing the environment or adapting the culture so that it is most productive.
Wow. That was excellent. Thank you so much, Jeanette, for joining us. It is time for us to head back to the main stage as we listen to the very final keynote that will be put on by Mr. Jamie Pottinger. We want to thank each of you for joining us for this conversation. We look forward to seeing you back on stage with Jamie. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on the Face of Leadership. Bye-bye.
Have a good day, everyone.